There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah, there is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out, slowly feel all that's around you, all that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Greetings, friends and family of Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes, and I am so glad that you have chosen to spend a little time with us this afternoon or whenever you are watching. I am the spiritual director of the Center for Spiritual Living here in beautiful Ocala, Florida, where spring has sprung. The weather is warm. It's absolutely amazing. And so before we go ahead and get started, or as our start, I'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about our center and who we are, what is important to us. So let's get that pulled up here. Our vision. Oops. Our values at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. First thing on that list is spiritual growth and practice. That's what it's all about, right? We're a center for spiritual living. It should be at the top of our list, is to delve into these ideas of what it is to live your best life. When things are right in your spiritual realm, then everything else is going to unfold from that. I know I'm living that right now. Love is also at the top of our list. We're a very loving, just wonderful group of people. We believe that love is the basis of who we are, is the truth of who we are, is these spiritual beings having a human experience. And so we love love, and we value appreciation, because we know on a spiritual level that what we appreciate and where we put our attention and focus grows in our awareness. So find all those things you have to be grateful for, and appreciate. And even the things that you may not be as grateful for, appreciate that too, because you never know what lessons are going to be in that for you. We value community. There are some things that we can learn and must learn on our own, and there are some things that are best learned in community. And so we value the folks that come into our center, the folks that are watching us online. The larger organization of Centers for Spiritual Living is all part of our community, as well as City of Ocala, right? The country. Anyway, let's see. We value freedom. We value freedom of expression, and in fact, encourage people to be all that they can be, all that they came here to be, to use their gifts and talents and passions. And we want people to have the freedom to do that. We value creativity. We believe that that is the way that we are, like that creative essence that some people call God, that God is the great creator, and we are creators as well, creating our experience of this thing we call life. We value health and wholeness, and that is well-being in every aspect of life, right? In our emotional lives, in our mental lives, in our physical being, financial, everything, all of it. We value generosity. Again, it sets that wheel in motion of what we give, we receive. And we value financial well-being. So the next thing is our vision and mission. And that is right there. So our vision is that we are a model center for spiritual living, as evidenced by the transformational impact we have, not just on our spiritual community here at CSL Ocala, but also the larger CSL organization and the community at large. Yeah. And our mission is to empower individuals to awaken to that power and presence that lies within and all around them. Meaning that, again, we believe that we are all part of this one body of humanity, of creation, and that God is running in, around, and through all of that. There ain't no, I always forget how it goes. There is no spot where God is not. And so here we are, each one of us expressing that power and presence that we call God. And so I'm going to invite one of my dear friends, or one of our practitioners. I think we're going to have two, maybe, possibly. I don't know. We're going to have one of
Just
our
one.
practitioners. Love
Hey
you.
guys,
Hey, honey. How you doing?
I'm doing good. A little bit better today. Wow, this cold in Georgia is no joke. My body's not crazy about the cold, so.
Yeah, I
But
did
I'm
a
warm today.
I see that. I see that. Yeah, you're definitely not in Florida. I did a talk with some friends in Celebration Center for Spiritual Living this morning, which is in, I think it's called Falls River, Virginia.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they were talking about how cold it was. I was like, so
Yeah.
sad. So sorry.
It was no, it's much warmer today in Atlanta, but it was kind of nippy yesterday.
Oh,
So,
wonderful. Let me see.
yeah.
Oh, my friend Teresa Slusher. Reverend
Yeah.
Teresa's popped in here
Hi.
for a minute. So anyway, today's is actually kind of a bittersweet, a big day. We'll talk more about
Mm,
that as we go through. But before we do that, I'm going to just let you have at it and pray us in. Uh,
okay.
you always do it so beautifully. So here you
All
go, Donna.
right. Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday Fun Day today. Ah, my goodness. I am going to invite you now to just get centered into the physical body that you inhabit. Just taking a purposeful, nice, deep breath. And allowing it to flow through that physical body of yours. Just becoming aware of your center where you sit. And as we sit in that awareness of ourselves, I know that this essence, this life force that I call God, this thing that moves and has its being in all things, this beautiful life energy that is pumping the blood through my veins and telling my brain to breathe, and my lungs respond, this beautiful mechanism that is life, that is love, that is God. I recognize it now, that it exists in all things. It's in everything that's come before this moment and everything that shall happen after this moment. It is forever and ever expanding and expressing itself in creative new ways, even as seeming always die away. Creative new ways of expressing itself. God is unfolding and folding upon itself a trillion times over. I can't begin to know all of the things and all of the mechanisms, the things that I can see, the things I cannot see, the things that don't even exist yet is unfolding beautifully. And as one thing ends, a new thing begins, or a new thing expands, and something else comes to an end. And the ending of one thing starts something else. And sometimes it seems like the end of that edge is there until a new edge is formed, branching from that which is already there. All of it is God expressed. And as I sit in this seat, knowing that I'm a part of the oneness that is the essence of life and love, I exist in that. I live and move and have my being. As I drive in my car, as I pay my bills, as I speak to my neighbors, as I pet my dog, I am moving and flowing the energy that is the oneness in human form through my daily activities. And I know the same is true for every other person, every other living being on this planet, every solar system, every galaxy. We're all moving simultaneously in this dance that we call life. And so it's from that space of knowingness that we know that nothing ever actually ends. There's just an unfolding and a rebirthing that takes place when a chapter closes or it seems like something ends. There's always something that we can learn and grow from that. Learn and grow. And sometimes it's something painful that has to end. But we learn and grow from that. And sometimes it's something joyful that ends. And we learn and grow from that. It's from that space that I am grateful. I'm grateful for today's talk and today's conversation. I'm grateful for the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala. I am grateful for this teaching. I'm grateful for the people listening to the words coming out of my mouth. I'm grateful for myself sitting in this chair and saying, yes, I will show up to this divine appointment. I am grateful for my very heartbeat. And I release it now, knowing that it's already done. And so it is. Amen. Ashe.
Hello, my friend. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Hi.
Great way to drop us down into that space.
Mm.
Yeah. So people might be wondering, I don't know, is it as your prayer was talking about endings and beginnings? I might as well just go ahead and just jump on in with
I
that.
don't know. I never have a plan,
I
and I
never
just
have a
kind of drop
plan.
into the space, and then whatever words come out, come out.
Yes, yes, yes. It was good. Well, we've been doing this format now since COVID reared its ugly head. So it's been about 2 years.
Hmm.
That's amazing, isn't it? Incredible
It's
that it has been
amazing.
2 years that we have been doing this.
I can't believe
And
it. It's crazy.
it is mind blowing. And so we are back in person again at CSL Ocala. We have weekly gatherings here in person. And then we've been coming on board afterward at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to do this part because partly I'll speak for myself because I really enjoy it. It's fun. I have loved having these conversations. But it is feeling like a little much, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's gotten to be starting to feel a little heavy. And so we've had a conversation and decided maybe it's time to hit pause
Mhm.
on this part of our expression as CSL Ocala and doing our 3 o'clock in the afternoon digital thing and just dropping back and doing our stuff in person. Although that is also going to continue to be recorded and put up on YouTube so people can stay in touch with us that way.
Mhm. And it
Yeah.
does go live. Um, we do still do a live on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes, we
We still
absolutely
have the
do.
ability to
Mhm.
do that, so it just wouldn't
Mhm.
be coming out as this format anymore. That's all.
Yeah. At this point,
At this
it may
point.
change again. This might be a short pause. It might be a longer pause. I don't know. I just, we're talking about boundaries today, right? And healthy relationship. And so this feels like a manifestation of that. So here we go,
Mhm.
living what we're teaching, right?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
this was the part, like, I was thinking about our spiritual circle, our ecclesiastical circle, and then this is just one of those things that just flows through so easily as we're creating this new thing within our center and the way
mhm.
we flow with each other. And it was just like, wow, this is how we work so well together.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just feeling each other and feeling our center and then saying what is the highest and best for us and the center and the people
Yeah,
online. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, I think I'll speak for myself again. I've done this a little bit longer because we have made some friendships and connections and things with
Hmm.
people who are not in the Ocala area
Hmm.
that I'd love to be able to stay plugged in. And I hope that they will continue to follow us, even though we're not meeting every week in this, the
Hmm.
same format. I hope people will stay on board with us and, plug into our regular Sunday stuff as
Hmm.
it comes
Hmm.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this may come back. Maybe it's just on pause for, a couple of months or something and we come back. But yeah, so the conversation is boundaries and such an interesting thing to to kind of wrap up our conversation because I really, my intention was for the whole year to do this idea of self renewal, this
Hmm.
curriculum that I created. And self stands for social emotional life focus, right? So we're talking
Hmm.
basically the science of emotions and relationships, right? So how to get along. And for this first part, we've been talking about the foundation of healthy relationships, which not everybody has,
Hmm.
right? Not
Right.
everybody learns that,
Hmm.
and we talked about respect and we talked about trust. And today I'm going to talk about boundaries and maybe be able to bring accountability into it. Um,
Hmm.
and as I've been doing this work for all of these years, when you try to hone it down to what are the necessary components of a healthy relationship, um, it was first just trust and respect and accountability. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized how necessary boundaries are.
Hmm. Yeah,
I also
absolutely.
realized why it wasn't apparent to me at the start. And it's because I have my own issues around boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So just to kind of get everybody on the same page, um, I don't have a definition to put up here, but boundaries, I think, are the parameters, those things that allow us to create safe space.
Mm-hmm.
Someplace I read it was like the boundaries allow you to be independent and interdependent at the same time,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if a person grows up, say in childhood with boundaries, then it could be one way or the other. Super, super rigid
Mm-hmm.
boundaries will cause problems, can cause problems if you don't realize how to work within that or how to break out of it. Also, the opposite, like lack of boundaries, can cause all kinds of trouble for a person as they grow, right? You got to
Mm-hmm.
find that sweet spot.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So I grew up in a home where there were extremely rigid boundaries, is like, and very authoritarian, like you do this, that, and the other. Don't step out of lines, because there was like severe consequences for stepping out, of the box, or what
Yeah.
the parameters were. And so what that did to me as an adult is like, as soon as I feel somebody's putting a little bit of thumb on me, or that kind of push down, that I'm out. I'm out. Do
Mm-hmm.
not attempt to power over me. I don't play that. It's not comfortable. So
Yeah.
that's how it has manifested for me. And so, anything that kind of is like trying to reel me in feels a little bit like I want to shake that off. You're not the
Mm-hmm.
boss of me. You can't tell me what to
Right.
do. Right. I
Right.
decide my own rules. And that's not necessarily helpful, right? It's like a reaction to, sometimes things that are very well meaning or even very necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Absolutely.
my story. What's yours?
I didn't really have a whole lot of boundaries. I didn't realize that I did not put boundaries in place for myself.
Mm,
Um, because I was extremely codependent. I was in very codependent relationships. Um, and I'm recognizing now that that was that kind of behavior, to put words to it, but it's that need to be liked, that
mm,
need to be wanted, that need to be accepted is was that core belief system that I had. And
yeah.
once I could look at it and say, is this triggering my core belief? Is it pushing against my values? Because we just talked about values with the Leadership
Mhm.
Council. Is it pushing against my values, or is it, you know, taking me to the opposite space, which is that core belief that I didn't like? And
Yeah.
I did not have my boundaries in place. And sometimes if I did have my boundaries in place, truth be told, I have allowed them to be flexible depending on
Yeah.
the person pushing on it. So where I would let somebody else's child or somebody else's grandparent, for example, as a nurse, get away with being a certain way, I wouldn't expect that from my own children or my own
Right.
grandparent. I would be like,
Mhm.
no, you're not going to talk to me like that. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, but we give so much a wider, a more flexibility for those who do not know. So our boundary line kind of is more flexible. It's
Yeah.
there, but it's more flexible. Now I'm realizing that I allowed it to be too loose with
Yeah.
others and sometimes too tight with the people closest to me. So I had to learn to expand the two and let them both be pliable, but not rigid, but in the same token, not too flexible.
Exactly. That's why I call it the sweet spot, right? Like it has to be
Yeah.
just right.
And it
Because if
depends
it's
on how I'm feeling in the moment. Because I might be in a wonderful space that moment where my body feels great and I'm in a great mood. And yes, I'm very flexible. And other times where it's like my aura needs to come in super close to my body. And if that's the case because I'm in defense mode or if I'm vulnerable because I'm in pain, oh no, my boundary line has to be real rigid to
yeah.
protect me. So the sweet
I
spot.
think it's good to know, it's like, you can be too rigid, you can be, they call it porous, where there's like no
Mm,
boundary, right? It's just porous back and
right.
forth. But then there's flexibility, that helps you maximize whatever you're functioning, whatever that
Hmm.
needs to be. So clearly for you as a nurse, you if you had a rigid rule of, you can't put your hands on me, or
Yeah.
that should be a rigid rule. But
Uh-huh.
something else, like with your patients, acting out of line, like it's not appropriate for you to be in mommy mode with those people. It's a different
Correct. And it
scenario.
depends on the
So
patient. So if the patient is dementia, for example, where you know they're not in their right mind, and clearly this patient has had surgery and they're under anesthesia, then our boundary lines for those patients get very, very, we kind of create a little safe bubble around them because we know, oh, that's Miss So and so. So we
it's,
approach a little more gentle. But then if you know that the patient is in their right mind, and they are being, especially throwing racial slurs or cussing
yeah,
or anything like that, then we have a very rigid rule that says, no, you cannot do that.
right.
I don't care if you hear Mrs. So and so down the way cussing us. That woman is ill. She's not in the right mind.
Right.
So that's when the boundary line kind of shifts according to, and then if they adjust their behavior, then we're much more flexible with them.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I love this conversation. I wish I had
Yeah.
thought about these things sooner,
Oh
to
man.
understand, because I have
It would have
struggled
saved
so
me a
much.
lot of really toxic relationships.
Right, right. Well, so Brene Brown is a great teacher on this, and there's
Hmm.
another book that I'm reading right now. Thank you, Pat Felton, for Boundary Boss, because that's been very helpful as well. But
Hmm.
Brene puts up just a couple of things that are like, you really should never cross the line on these. And then I want to see what you think about this, and if there are others
Okay.
that you would add. But here are the boundaries she offers. Number one, physical safety. Like I
Hmm.
said, we should never be in a space where we are feeling afraid for our own physical well-being, like you shouldn't
Correct.
be in a relationship where somebody's beating on you, period. Right? There's no reason,
Right. Exactly.
you
Exactly.
know. The next one, emotional safety, and she says this one is a little more slippery because some people might feel like, well, if you say something that hurts my feelings, you have crossed my boundaries. But she's not saying that. It doesn't mean political correctness. It doesn't mean avoiding criticism or refusing to hear somebody else's opinions. What she means by emotional safety is not engaging with dehumanizing or moral exclusions with people that are being targeted as being less than. And then whatever you deem necessary. So I want to take this down for a second here. Um, so me as a leader, at the center, if there are things that are happening, something needs adjusting, something needs to be addressed, and somebody comes to me with whatever this thing might be,
Hmm.
um, I could take it as a personal criticism, right? Is that crossing my boundaries? Like, you're not allowed to say such and such to me because it hurts my feelings? No. No, that's not what we're talking about. I need to hear, right? We
Hmm.
need to address the things that are not working. And if,
Hmm.
if it hurts my feelings or whatever, well, so be it. I mean, that's me as a leader, I have to
Yeah, we
know.
put ourselves out there for those kinds of
Yeah, yeah,
things.
exactly. So you got to have
Hmm.
a little bit of a thick skin,
Hmm.
and no, you're not always going to hear things that you like or that you want to hear
Hmm.
or whatever. But where, and I agree with her on this, that we draw the line at that thing of dehumanizing, you know.
Yes.
And a
Yes.
small example, somebody this week posted something on our Facebook page in response to a post that said something about Team Snowflake. That's what they call this, Team Snowflake. And I'm laughing about it now, but I got a little ticked, when I saw it there. It was like, that is not, what is that? Who are you even? You're not even a part of our community. Who are you to think, to call us names like that? So I messaged this person offline and said, if you have a problem, come to me, but don't put that on our Facebook page. And I'm not going to allow that to be on our page. That's a boundary
Hmm.
that I'm not going to let people cross when it comes to our community. You don't talk
Yes.
down to us. You don't call
Hmm.
us snowflakes or any other derogatory name. We're human
Yeah, you don't
beings.
have to come hang out with us. It's
Right? You don't
okay.
have to hang out with us. I'm not going to call you a snowflake or whatever, like, don't hang
Yeah.
out. You don't like us, don't be here. But that was to me like, okay, here's the boundary. We don't cross it,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to let that sit on our Facebook page.
Hmm.
We don't even
Hmm.
know you. You've never even been in our doors. So what? Right? So that's my example.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
absolutely.
mhm,
My biggest boundary line, and I believe it's something that I'm very supported in this, is if I believe someone is being abused in some way.
mm, mhm.
Huge, huge boundary for me. If you
Absolutely.
come to me with it and I find out about it, I have to escalate it. It has to happen.
And we're both
So,
in professional positions where we are
correct. We
mandated
have to do it.
and have to do
And
it.
so, I- if I believe that somebody needed help, I would still have to say, okay, this person needs help, but I would be having a conversation and it would be because the damage for a child or an elder is so surpassed,
Mhm.
um, that the rest of the life of that child, if we don't get in front of it, is ruined.
Yeah.
Mental illness sets in. I mean, all kinds of stuff happens. And the same with an elder, that elder could lose their life. And for
Mhm,
me, that's, oh no. Mm-mm. I mean, I'm burning, etching that line in the sand.
mhm,
So that's an absolute no-no for me.
mhm.
Which means for myself as well. I will
Yeah,
not allow myself to be abused.
right. So, that's again physical safety, right? Like
Hmm.
that's a
Hmm.
line that, we don't have
Yeah.
to question that.
Yeah.
No need to put your hands on somebody else,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
you
Yeah.
just don't. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to show another quote. So, I think back to why the boundaries are necessary, you know, I think about the analogy of a river, water flowing, or, like, that the river exists because it has its banks.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it would be all over the place. So, there needs to be a boundary. Or, we're talking about creativity next month. You get let's say somebody said, okay, write me a story.
Right.
All right, with no other direction. The first thing you want to know is, okay, is there a topic? Like, this is what I want to know. If I get an
Yeah.
assignment, right? I'm writing for somebody. I need to know the parameters. Tell me how many words you want it to be. What's the subject matter? What's the deadline
Mhm.
that I need to get it to you? If somebody
Yes.
says, just write me a story or write me something, I'd be sitting here like, okay, what do I do next? I mean, like, I need the parameters, right? So
Mhm,
I think
mhm,
that's the danger of not having of things being too loosey goosey, is that people don't even know where to start,
mhm.
what to do, where am I, what are my borders that keep me not just safe, but that give me that firm foundation so I can jump and do what I need to do.
Yeah. And parents do this depending on the maturity of the person or the soul. We do
Hmm.
that. So if you have a younger child, their boundary line might be the end of the driveway. You have a child on a bicycle, their boundary line is the end of that street to the stop sign, depending on the maturity. So people are at different mature levels, I believe, of where they
Hmm.
are on their spiritual journey. Only they really know where their level is.
Mm.
So when somebody comes and tests and pushes, especially spiritual leaders, somebody comes and pushes it against that boundary line, the first thing I ask myself is, where can I determine where they are in the journey? Are they the
Hmm.
2-year-old that needs to be at this end of the driveway, or are
Yeah.
they the 10-year-old on their bicycle? And then I would then say, oh, this is the boundary line for a 2-year-old coming in. So for example, if somebody's coming in brand new to our center and brand new to our teaching, I am more available for them
Hmm.
because they're brand new, they're just learning. But
Hmm.
somebody who's been with us for a while and really, has already got the spiritual tools and can be more on their own, I'm going to expect more autonomy. I'm going to expect less pulling on the energy that happens there. And so
Hmm.
that's when the boundary line kind of flexes and flows per person for me.
Hmm. Hmm.
But and again, the same thing with a nurse. I know the boundary I can set on a patient that's confused. They're going to have a bed alarm on. And another patient that's walkie-talkie, we say, they're going to be able to go to the bathroom without a bed alarm on.
Right. Right.
And both the bed alarm annoys both of them. But some of them, it's going to be an assistant. And if they're still not staying in the bed, they may even get restrained, which is even
Right.
more of a boundary.
Right.
But, for the safety of that person, And that's when you really have to push your boundary line in and say, nope, I'm going to be very rigid for your own safety, because
Right.
they are out of there. They're not really all there.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally they're lucid, but they're not all there. And then we have
Yeah.
to test. Are they here now? Are they lucid today? Are they getting
Right.
better? Yes, they're getting better. They're improving. You take off the restraints. Then,
Yeah.
oh, they're getting better. They're improving. Then you take off the bed alarm. I mean, and then slowly the boundary line gets further and further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great example. I think about too my daughter, my kids. We were at a public, like a water park, you know,
Hmm.
and so she was about 4 or 5 years old, just out there playing in the water, and everything was good as long as she could see us, you know, having a
Mm.
good old time, getting far out and whatever. You could see when she looked around and she couldn't spot us. Like then
Oh.
there's that moment of fear, almost panic. Okay, so my
Hmm.
safety is gone, right? And she could no longer function, even though everything was really still pretty much the same. We were there, but she didn't feel safe anymore because
Yeah.
her boundary, her people weren't there to keep her
Yeah.
in check. So,
Hmm.
kids will push against boundaries
Absolutely. Well, they
and
won't know where the
they
boundary
don't
line is
know.
if they don't go up to the line
Exactly.
and push. They're not going
Right.
to know where the line is until
Right.
you point it out. Hey, there's a line.
Yeah. And then that brings in the other piece of healthy relationship, right? Which is then the
Hmm.
accountability.
Hmm.
Because then you have to follow through. Like, okay, this is the boundary we established,
Hmm.
and now there's been a breach. How do we come back to center?
Yeah. But
How do
then you
we
can't
function
beat
now
up on
together?
people for not knowing where the boundary line was.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, if
Right. So
they
then
don't know.
we have to hold ourselves accountable,
Yes, we
right?
have to
We have to
know
hold
where our
ourselves.
boundaries are. And so that's when that deep inner work happens, because where's my boundary line? Oh, but nobody can tell me where my boundary line is, or who I should allow within that line, or who's closer. It changes depending on the person, but I know where the line is. And I
Mm,
said, oh, I need to start saying out loud, this is the
right.
line, so that the people who care about me know where it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. And how
And
awesome is it that we have this great community of people in our lives that get it, that
right.
understand. I'm
Right.
telling you,
And
without it, you just, oh,
when you're not used to setting them, and then you're not used, and I'll speak again for myself, not used to having those, my boundaries have been too porous. Sometimes you don't know until that thing shows up and you
hmm,
go, oh, okay, that's my boundary right there. Now I know.
yeah, yeah.
Now I know not to let somebody cross this. I have to put up another Brene quote that I think is so good that speaks to this. Um, She says this: in studying people who have the most empathy and the most compassion, she said participants who put true belonging into practice talk openly about their boundaries. The clearer and more respected the boundaries, the higher the level of empathy and compassion for others. Fewer clear boundaries, less openness. It's hard to stay kind hearted when you feel people are taking advantage of you or threatening you. Wow, right?
That's true. You can't give
So,
of yourself if you don't know where that line is.
right. So when the resentment starts to creep up, here's how you know that somebody's encroaching on your line. If the
Yeah.
resentment is there, is because that line hasn't been clarified, and now somebody has encroached, has gotten too close in, and now you
Hmm.
have to be like, okay, this is it. Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense, right?
And sometimes it's a matter of just recollecting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and then putting your tools into practice, because that's what has to happen. You have to say, okay, I recognize that I'm at this place of, oh, I'm starting to feel whatever this is. What can I
Mm-hmm.
do now? Oh, I can either, because this is that space, right, that Viktor Frankl talked
Right.
about.
Between
That
victim and between
space,
mhm.
stimulus happened.
Stimulus and
Wait a
response.
minute. Oh, wait, somebody crossed the, ooh, that's a boundary line. I didn't know I had it there before. Here it is. Give me a second. Then you go into your little bag of tricks and you figure out what's
Mhm.
going to get you to really, look at that line. Maybe you need a brush. Maybe you
Mhm.
need some more chalk to really define that line. Do all of
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
and then respond.
Mhm.
And that's in that space where all that stuff happens. That's where spiritual practice is.
Yeah.
That's when we're getting back to principle. That's where we're looking. That's the fertile soil of, oh, I could use this. Is.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you either come back with the response that's the victimhood, that you're saying, oh, wait, maybe you just need to turn around and go back and work on it some more.
Yeah.
Because it's like that stimulus keeps happening until
Mhm.
you figure out. I tell people that pre-install button, remember you say, it's that pre-install button that you got that they come up and press
Mhm.
on.
Yeah, yeah,
Remember
yeah.
you always say it?
Right.
Well, I
Who
tell
installed
people
it?
it's not that the button is no longer there, it's just that you disconnected the wiring.
Yeah.
So people can come up and press all they want, but it ain't gonna do
Mhm.
nothing. It's
Yeah.
not gonna affect the house.
Right, right, right,
Yeah, it's
right.
still there. It was installed. I mean, you can spackle over it all you want, but
Mhm.
it's from
Right.
your past.
Yeah, and that speaks to the individual taking accountability for themselves, So, yeah. The minute you start putting the blame on somebody else or thinking you
Hmm.
can change somebody else, that's when you're out of integrity. It's like, hold up the mirror. Okay, what's in this for me to learn here? What do
Hmm.
I need to adjust? Do I
Hmm.
need to put up a boundary? Do I need to let people know that boundary exists? Maybe it's for me to be like really clear. I mean, it's
Hmm.
not somebody else's fault if they encroach a boundary I didn't tell them about,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So I have to hold myself accountable, right? I can't hold you accountable until I hold myself accountable. And then that example shows people how to treat you.
And that's why that first value is spiritual growth and practice. It didn't say
Practice.
and perfection or and I got it now. It's practice. It's
Girl,
practice.
you tell me.
Oh,
And she, every time you think you got it, like, oh my gosh, life
that's
shows
because
up.
there's always a growing. Like growing never stops. So
Hmm.
life is going to show up. It's going to give you more of that thing that allows you to, oh, practice. And the better you become at it, I mean, even the great masters, Jesus even doubted, hey, why am I here? Why am I being called? Why? 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 Oh my God, I feel like you've forsaken me.
Hmm.
Even the greatest masters
Hmm.
practice. Oh,
Right.
yeah, this is what it is. Let me go back to that space of connectivity and oneness. And oh, yes, I'm back. And it happens
Yeah,
a
such a
lot.
good example, and we all falter and we all sometimes
Uh,
fall into that victim, like, why me? Why is this happening again? Like, I mean, it
mhm.
happens, right? But
Everybody
because of
goes through it.
practice, you bring yourself back.
You get out of it quicker. And the
Hmm.
the kicker though, what I'm finding, especially with my anxiety, I'm finding that if I don't catch it quick enough, I spiral. And it spirals so easily that if I don't have a lifeline, which is usually my mentors and my dearest, closest friends, yeah, I can just it blindsides me. And before I know it, I'm like, wait, where the heck did I spiral to? How come
Hmm.
I got caught in this other little loop of whatnot? That's
Hmm.
not where I wanted to be. Oh, yes, come back.
Right.
I remember
Right.
one time you had to say that to me. Oh, honey, come back. I was like, this is what I'm thinking. Oh my God. And she was like, oh my God, where the heck is that coming from?
You were far, far away. Come back. I remember
Yes.
that.
But with the anxiety, it's very real.
Oh,
It's that
yeah.
chicken little moment of the sky is falling, and it
Hmm.
really is falling. But once you recognize and somebody's on the other side of it going, honey, it's just an illusion.
Yeah.
But that gentle voice has to be able to pierce through the noise that is the ego that's screaming alarms everywhere. Run away, run away, run away.
Hmm. Hmm.
But you
Well,
have to
you
recognize
know why I
that.
recognize it. Because I've been there so many times. You see
That's
it,
how
you know
that's
it
how I
because
can
you've been
coach people
there.
because I understand when
Mhm,
I see them in it and I see them flailing about. I know that sometimes it's a matter of waiting and waiting for a
mhm,
break in the noise. And that's when you gently come in and say, and we're back. Because
mhm,
it's that, and once you realize that that's what's happening, the body is responding and send you the adrenaline rush. Your body has a mechanism that happens. and you might not be able to control it, but here you are.
Hmm.
So you can ignore it all you want, but the body's going to do what it's going to do. It's a
Yeah.
machine. And when that trigger happens, the body says, oh, yes, this is what happened the last time. That's why PTSD happens like that. Last
Hmm.
time I was in a fire when I saw a flame. Freak out because we saw a candle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it takes you spiritual
Yeah.
practice. You have to come back. And being by yourself, trying to hash through something that is grief or trauma or anything that's heavy like that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
do. I'm not
Check
saying
into your
it's
community.
impossible, but it's hard to do.
Again,
Yeah.
some things are better learned in community. You know,
Hmm.
that's one of the great thing that I learned just recently was that certain wounds that we have, you know, especially as children, say around creativity or things like that, wounds that happen when kids make fun of you or things like that, that you carry, those kinds of wounds really are easiest healed also in community
Hmm. Yeah.
because they occurred in community. They need to be healed in community
Hmm.
if
And
they don't.
community, if you think about all the stuff that's out there that's pushing up against you, it's not just your own head and your own family or your own background, but there's so much in life that's there to solidify that thought of I'm not good enough. For example, somebody who's told when they're young that they can't sing. Oh, you can't sing. Oh, why are you singing again? Or somebody just made fun of you one day at school. And now you have this shows like American Idol, that you see these amazing singers getting booted off the stage, and you're thinking, oh no, I definitely can't sing. And it just slams that thought back into you. So that when a moment shows up, like you have a moment where you have your newborn baby in your arms, a pure, untapped energy that's just loving you and just wants to hear the sound of your voice, all kinds of stuff shows up because you were told you can't sing and it's been solidified that you can't sing. And so the gift that could be the sound of your voice to this child is taken.
And wouldn't it be nice if we could like have this? I'm going to
A
imagine this for
community of
myself
people
now.
who do
A force
karaoke and
field.
encourage you to sing.
Well, just or I'm thinking like for our little kids, if they just had some kind of force field around them, that when people said mean things, it just wouldn't get in. Like this is my boundary. I don't allow that negativity to to attach to me. So I think I'll make
I
that
think
part of
we
my
just have
play.
to, yeah, well, still, I just think that the more that we make kids aware of themselves and aware of the world around them and aware of others and other people's story, the more that they can then say, oh, that's them and this is me and I'm
Hmm.
choosing this. And because they're going to be exposed and they're going to go through those stages, that psychology talks about, where they want to connect to their friends at one stage and they want to figure out and explore themselves in another stage. And all these stages of human experience that we go through is influenced then by the hormones in the body and the people around you and all of that. So what we can do as a community is stay steadfast at each stage so that we can then kind of strip away, oh yes, this part works, oh no, remember, if they're taught principle from the very beginning, spiritual principle, then everything that comes around, they will take it and look at it through the lens of principle. And
Hmm.
more often that they do that, the more that those boundaries will be in place.
Because principle becomes your boundary,
Exactly.
right? I mean,
Exactly.
if your principles and your values are your boundary, that's it right
That's it.
there.
That's it.
But that means you have to take the time to figure out what that is for yourself because it's not the same for everybody.
And as we raise our children, though, it's what kind of principles and values, because some people, their principle and value does not work with others people
Hmm.
principles and values. That's when you have this, I'm right and you're wrong because it lines up with my principle and this lines up with my principle,
Right.
because a
Well,
lot of times people take like other things, other experiences, like their relationship to religion or the
mhm,
relationship they have with their job. And that is the principle and value that should be for everybody. And that
yeah.
doesn't work.
Well, I do think that probably of all the stuff that's out there in the world, that what we're teaching is the closest to universal.
Mm-hmm.
that crosses
Yeah.
over all of those
Yeah.
kinds of things, you know.
I
I
think
think
so.
I think so.
I mean,
Well,
in all the times that I've looked and
mm,
researched, I mean, some have pieces and parts to it in it, but there's also other parts that say, well, you can do this and have this awesomeness, but you have
but
to
you can,
do it within.
right.
And if it doesn't work for you, I don't know what to tell you. You just can't be gay. It's just not a thing. Or you just can't be in an interrelationship. No, you're from different races. Nope, can't be together. It's this little. Although we have this beautiful thing over here that you can have. So that's and there's different degrees of that throughout really every culture. So in all my search, CSL has been the closest that has been the most encompassing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. It
And
it
that's what I love.
feels expansive. That's the paradox, though, isn't it, of having boundaries and principles and values, is
Yeah.
that when you can come from that place, it's not constricting. It actually allows you to be your fullest.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the benefit of really, um, not proper, but effective, let's say, boundaries.
But that's actually what
Is
consciousness is.
Yeah, yeah, that
Is
it creates that space so that you could show up in your fullest.
hmm and then everything else still works.
Right,
It still
right.
works. Like you can still be that thing that brings you so much joy with your family.
Yeah,
You can still be
absolutely.
whatever, but you're coming from a different perspective of how
Yeah.
you're looking at yourself and looking at others. And that's how we create that world that works for everybody. We just have to make people aware that they don't have to give up the goodness, the good supper, and have to all these sacrifices that they're trying to make and expecting others to make.
Well, in fact, if you're living what's yours, you're not suffering at all. You're
No.
in joy because it's your what you came here to do,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's why, when people are like, oh, we don't proselytize, I'm like, oh, I think that's why. It's because we're not saying there's something wrong with what you do already. We're not trying to get you over to our side,
Yeah.
nothing like that. It's a matter of just bringing awareness to the presence and power that is all around us, no matter
Hmm.
what you call it,
Yeah.
and then doing it within whatever modality makes you happy.
Well, Donna, I think that's a great way to wrap up this conversation and hit the pause on CSL
Mm,
Ocala and self renewal for a moment
yes,
and see when we pick up these conversations again. But
yeah.
for now, we'll
We'll
take
see when spirit
a
taps you on
break.
the shoulder again and say, "Hey, let's have this conversation."
Hey, you never know. I didn't know I
You
was
never
going to do
know.
this. It had been asked. You were one of the people multiple times. When are we going online? When are we going online? It was like, oh, one of these days. And then we had to do it. And
Mhm.
it's been so much fun. I really love this, this process and this way of getting the message out. And it's just been a great time. But for now, I'm going to respect the boundaries of time and my own energy and pause for a little bit and see what opens up next. But
Yes.
I want to thank you for, playing along from the beginning and for being such an encourager. And
It
I
was
mean,
so much
people,
fun.
it has been, people seen you like popping in from the road, from, I don't know, all different
Yeah.
places, right? New
Yeah.
York, Atlanta, South
Mhm.
Florida, just all around. So thank you for playing with me, being that partner. And it's
Oh,
been
yes. It's
fun.
my most fun to hang out in this box with you. The little play field with you. It's fun.
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank Richard Jensen, who's backstage. Maybe we can get him to
He's been
come
in the
out here and
sandbox
just,
with us.
we're gonna bring you in, Richard, just to wave and say hello. As our tech guru, keeping us going here. The guy in the background that keeps it all flowing. Just thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you, Rich.
My
Yes,
pleasure.
yes.
Mm,
All right, so I guess we'll go ahead and do our time for our offering, and then we'll
yes.
sign off until the next time, whenever that
Till
that
next
is.
time.
Till the next.
TTFN. That's what Norma says. Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta for now. All right,
Yeah.
y'all.
All right.
Thank you. All right. So, yes, sharing our gifts and tithes. This is a moment where you have an opportunity to give to CSL Ocala. We have an actual building, a physical place where we meet, and we need funds to keep going. This is how we are able to offer a message, is because of the generosity and the support of the folks who are viewing and the folks who come to the center and who vibe with our vision and mission and want to see it continue on. So I'm just going to invite you to give, and if it's not CSL Ocala that you give to, by all means, give someplace. You need to give where you feel like you're being spiritually nurtured and fed. And we've made it easy. You can give to CSL Ocala by going to our website at cslocala.org/donate. Or if you have a smartphone, you can text message the number that's going across the screen at 352-320-5110. And once you have it set up in your phone, you put the amount of money you want to give to the center and you hit send, and it goes right from your account to ours. And so we're just so very grateful to all of you who have been watching us all of these months, from home and from faraway places. Anyway, here is the affirmation. I'm going to invite you to just maybe hold your hand to your heart and make these words your own as you think about where it is that you want to give your treasure, your financial treasure. It is the nature of life to give of itself, as it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom. It is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am grateful. Yes. I'm going to just keep affirming that. I am a blessing. You are a blessing. Life is good and unfolding in its perfect and right divine order. Let me see if we've got any questions here or comments, if anyone wants to share anything. Let's see. It looks like all of these links are basically business. So love you too, Pam Brown. I see that. And I want to give a special shout out to New Thought Media Network for giving us this platform during the time when we could not meet in person. It's just a fabulous organization that is looking forward, that's progressive with how we get these new thought messages out in as many communities as possible. And I'm very, very grateful to Reverend Robert Brzezinski and the rest of the team at New Thought Media Network. I think there is an event. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Not an event, actually, but Planetary Prayer for Global Peace has been going on. It will be wrapping up the 31st. It looks like an interactive community experience of prayer during this time. As we know, there is war happening in the world, and we just want to continue to pray for peace, to know peace, to live peace, to be the change that we want to see in the world. And so I thank you for tuning in, for your support of the work that we do at CSL Ocala, and the work of New Thought Media Network, and all of our guests and friends who've collaborated with us to bring these messages to you. And with that, I will close with our prayer for protection that comes from James Dillett Freeman. And I just invite you again, hold your hand over your heart, make it your own. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. May everything be well in your life. And I look forward to seeing you in our center, connecting with you at some point in the future, or just keep on tuning in when we have our live broadcasts, which happen for sure, first and second Sunday, sometimes third. We're also recording Once in a while, it will be fourth, but love and blessings to each one of you. And thank you for tuning in. So glad you've spent some time with us. Take care.